Good morning and welcome to another edition of Roadhouse Live. We are live. Today is July 18, 2023. Bender, how you feel on this 18th day of the July?
I am all right. I'm all right.
I meant to say he all right. All right. So retail sales figures, no matter what, you have to say kind of flat, right? You have to say it's kind of flat, kind of. So we'll just call it flat. Uh, Canada, their inflation data, CPI came in, again, beat expectations. Inflation continues to pull back, and a lot of buzz out of the EU saying that they may indeed, you know, be done and most likely will skip, pause, whatever on the next cycle. So it looks like a lot of these central bankers are kind of looking at this, being like, right, so inflation is coming in. Um, there seems to be like this little weight on the global economy, really being spurned by China, and we're looking at where we are now from the standpoint of what the narrative has been, and all of those pieces, that massive wall of worry is starting to get chipped away at a little bit. So much so that I would imagine that, over the next couple of quarters, we're going to start hearing the conversation that we did pre-pandemic as far as deflation being a real issue and a real problem. Bender, are you excited about that conversation?
I'm so excited.
So
Yep.
then we can have a new boogeyman.
Yeah. Well,
Are
there's
you?
got to be something. There's got to be something hanging out there.
There's got to be something. Russia continues to be, and I don't want to say Russia. I'll just say Vlad continues to be a cocksucking pedo with this continued activity, trying to make everybody's lives complicated. It's like it's becoming more and more apparent that he's that dude who picks a fight, gets his ass beat, and is still throwing rocks behind his daddy. It's like everything about him is just straight up fucking trash. It's like the whole
God, I
thing with
hate that kid. Hate
it's
that
like
kid.
right, it's like that's who he is. He's like, anyways. So the grain deal, we could get some conversation. Is like they're already getting barkings as far as, oh, this is gonna, hurt the hungry nations, and there's gonna be a problem, and blah blah blah, all that kind of stuff. We'll see how it actually plays out. It's just more excuse for our military and the rest of the world to kind of get involved if they start protecting ships, and then Russia has to make a decision whether or not they want to try to blow one up. It ought to be pretty interesting as far as how that narrative continues to develop. Overall, we had more banks reporting, nothing really horrible as far as what they're doing, but their price action is fairly flat. I think Morgan Stanley is actually down. I didn't get a chance to get into that ER. Bank of America did all right. I think a lot of these companies are doing all right. We get big dogs reporting. I think JB Hunt reports this evening, which should be, one of those market indicators as far as transports are always important. We have, I guess, different leaders in the semiconductor space meeting with the White House as far as talking about what to do with the China and how to deal with the China. That'll be taking place today. What else do we have, Bender? We have Netflix and Tesla tomorrow. I believe we have a semi manufacturer, equipment manufacturer, either today or tomorrow also. So ER season is definitely heating up. We do have a little red candle, Bender. Do you want to tell us about this little red candle?
Do I want to tell you about the little red candle? Sure.
The little red
Um,
candle, the tiny red candle that's on the 377 on the 3 minute right now. That one, the one that, you know, is what it is.
all right. Yeah, we got a little red candle. All right. So here's the 15-minute. I'm gonna go out to a 60-minute real quick. You can see I've got the London session high on here at 45.56. We've got the Asia session low was 45.46 half. We have crossed that. And I measured from this low here, 45.28.25. That high we made yesterday, 45.66. And you can see the midpoint or the 50% pullback there, just above that Asia session low, 45.47.25. And the 618 is 45.43. So if I go to a 15-minute, what you will also see I threw on here, 45.49.5 is the top of this 15-minute fair value gap. And this candle down here through that Asia session low. So that's been taken now. I can go ahead and take that off my chart. Don't need that anymore. Throw that there as a pre-market low, just to kind of track 45.44.75. So on any push up, watch this the top of that 15-minute fair value gap. But after creating that gap, the majority of it was almost immediately filled back in. So a pop over 45.49.5, if it can get over that and hold, then we're looking up here towards that London session high at 45.55.75. And then above that, you can see this 15-minute fair value gap here. Throw a line on the chart there for you. 45.58. So there's not a whole lot. You know, you're only talking about 3 handles in between those right there. It's not like, you know, it looks like a bigger move than it is. But likely if we clear that London session high, then you've got that 45.58 top of that 15-minute fair value gap. If you can get through that, then it probably takes this out at 45.66. On the flip side, if we get back below that Asia session low, you got that 618 retracement, 45.42.75, just to keep an eye on. Could see a bounce in there, right? That's 618 off this move here. So see if that's the objective, to pull it down to that 618 and see what it does with it. If it gives that up and can't reclaim it, then more than likely we're going to come and take out these lows down here. 45.28. What was that? 45.28.25. More than likely it'll come take that out. And then we still have, if I go back to the regular trading hours chart, then you still have that gap right down here. Top of that gap being 45.21.25. The bottom of the gap, 45.11.75. So that's kind of what I'm looking at. Either we reclaim, take this 15-minute fair value gap and hold it, go take the London session high, and you got that 15-minute fair value gap, and ultimately this candle's high. Or we're going to give this up, use it as resistance, and start making our way down towards these lows and then that gap down there. I don't think there's a whole lot else. We still have this 1618 extension up here off the up move. That's kind of it as far as setting up the day. Now let's look at one other thing.
Doesn't it? It's like after that move, it's like we've seen it. It's so we get a big move, then we consolidate for about a week, sometimes 2. We find the area to consolidate, we ping pong, and then we break out further to the upside. Is this feel like just more of that same type of activity you've been there as far as, okay, so we made the high, we're going to consolidate in this range, probably, let's just call it 40, 50 handles, consolidation in through there, and then make the next move?
Yeah, I mean, if we go back to this kind of channel that we're in here on the daily, right? We're kind of up near the top of it, maybe not quite there as far as tapping the top of it. But we're kind of up the upper end of it. So yeah, I could see us, doing some consolidations, Maybe a little higher, maybe a little lower, come back down kind of closer to the midpoint of that channel, ultimately before, making that next leg.
Yeah. Which we have plenty of catalysts in front of us. We have a couple of big ERs this week. We have Fed next week. We have plenty of catalysts.
Yep. The only other thing is that now that we've taken that London or that Asia session low, we'll see how the open comes in, but let me turn this back on here. You can see Asia session high was already taken. Now the Asia session low has been taken. So, at this point, it's like pre-market here, we took out London session low. So if we get through that, 45.50, I'd be looking at it going, okay, now we're going to go for the London session high. And that would kind of set up seek and destroy type action. But
all right, very good.
Yeah, that's about it. Quick look at the Intel weekly chart here. That shaded area is the 89.
Hey man, I'm still in calls.
Look at this news right here.
I'm still in calls. So
AMD may suffer from elevated expectations, but Wells Fargo is warming to Intel setup.
Again, I still have calls. So it's fine. Intel, please go up and not down. What you got, Sonny?
Morning, everyone. Quiet day on the news side. So on the upgrade side, PINS, Evercore upgrades had to outperform. They're saying the ad revenue has stabilized. Users are starting to come back. There's increased traffic on the website. And the other one is UNH, price target raised to 603 by Bernstein. Downgrades, BBIO, this was also a play yesterday. The other one is CWH. NCLH, Truist downgraded to hold from buy, and this is after NCLH just last week said they had their best day of reservations in the history of NCLH.
So it's funny, we talked about that a little bit yesterday, at least I did, as far as you remember that, I don't know, it was Cat or Deer, their ER saying this is about as good as it's going to get.
Yep.
It's like you have to imagine that it's like we saw the explosion into people going to Disney parks and all of a sudden they stopped. Which means everybody went and did their little thing.
Yeah, it's well, especially for North America. I mean, okay, the cruising season is mostly over unless you're in training.
Yeah,
you gotta keep that in. So there's a lot less in the fall and the winter and the colder time. And I'm thinking that's also the reason to downgrade Camping World because most of that sales gonna decrease once the summer passes.
That's an interesting thought. Do you think weather patterns plays into that also when it comes to Camping World?
It does. It definitely does. If you look at the historical data, you'll kind of see it tapers off going into the fall and the winter season.
And then with you having the extreme heat and the flooding in the Northeast and all that kind of stuff, if that has like a legitimate, tangible impact?
I don't think so because that's short-term impact.
Okay.
But it's more of a lot less camping in the winter. So that has a definitely, and I've looked at the chart on that. It's tapers off when it falls, winter starts.
There you have it.
It tapers off when the summer ends. So I've done that. The other one is PII. So we had some bullish flow in that yesterday or the day before. Take a look at it. The two I'm interested in is SHOP and TTD. So TTD, New Street has downgraded that to a sell from neutral, and SHOP by Evercore in line from outperform. They kept the price target 69. And the news side, so solar names continue to have some movement this morning, moved up. nice gains, but then Piper Sandler just came out and lowered the price target across the board on all solar names. Piper Sandler also actually started initiations in a whole bunch of restaurant names like Eat, Cake, Play. There's a couple of other I'll post it in their room later. Continuing with the restaurant theme, Chipotle, they signed their first franchise to open up in the Middle East. So that would be interesting. They want to open up a whole bunch of them out in that area.
The question is, though, do they serve queso, or are they going to come through and create a feta sauce? What do you think, Sonny?
They'll have to make something. I think this is going to have a new menu, especially with anything that contains pork ingredients.
Yeah, no carnitas.
Carnitas.
No carnitas.
No carnitas. Don't wanna die. Yeah.
All right.
And it's interesting, like you look at McDonald's and things like that. If you go to other countries like Asia and stuff, menus are completely different. There's a lot less pork, beef. There's more like lamb and chicken. So that menu is definitely different. It'll be different for them. Moving on to Apple. So India became the 5th largest iPhone market for Apple. So it contributing 4% of the sales with 50% year-over-year growth. So they're surpassing France and Germany in that. And we've had some bullish flow. The 19250s come in Apple. Okay. Teladoc, T-Doc, this one is pretty much, it goes up and shits the bed after, especially during the ER time. So they've expanded their partnership with Microsoft to automate documentation with, guess what? AI. And Uber had news this morning. So they lost a court case where one of their drivers had sued them, and he's trying to take a class action lawsuit, ignoring the terms and conditions that they signed, like it has to come to private arbitration. But the court said no, he still can sue Uber for the misclassification of drivers. So he was for Uber Eats. So Uber got some downside. I'll watch this one. If other states can do the same thing, especially New York is on watch because they had a classification of drivers that they put on hold till September.
I think Uber had a pretty big door pull yesterday for some reason. I think
it was this ruling came out 10%. This morning, I think.
Yeah.
And that's all.
All right. Stonkington, what you got, buddy?
Hello, I'm here. I'm ready. And we got some good stuff for today. Let's see. I think it's time to maybe start looking at some commodities. We'll get a screen share going. And speaking of commodities, we got a new world record.
Oh, Jesus.
The largest donation of breast milk by one individual. Any guesses how much breast milk she got going there?
This is gross. What are you doing with your free time? What are you doing with your free time over there?
Hey, this is what the Guinness Book of World Records told me.
Why are you looking at the Guinness? It's like it's you in like an old folks home being like, "Oh, Sonny, did you see the Guinness Book of World?" What are you doing with your time?
1.5 liters.
Why can't you just watch porn and go to strip clubs like everybody else? Why do you have to be so fucking weird?
Hells, we've talked about this like extensively. I mean, Hells, it kind of feels like you keep expecting to hear something, different and normal, and then he's like, "Oh, I sat around and
who looks at
got the coloring books out, and
records? Did somebody give him like a membership or something? Who did you wrong, Stonk? Who did this to you?
Man. It was probably a groomsman, the groomsman gift at the wedding you went to. Like his friends probably trading comic books, and I'm just kidding. Because we already talked a little bit about how that bachelor party went, remember? And it was like,
yeah, we put our cabbage pail dogs in the spokes of our tires and drive around, and it's like, yeah.
Hey, I
All
know
right.
how to have a good time over here. All right. Yeah, the headline I saw yesterday was Russia's gonna open up some grain exports from the Ukraine to keep the world food supply. This blue line here is when the war got going. Grain popped, dropped, so it's beaten down. There could be, I think there could be something to watch there with the headline that came out yesterday. We'll see. Not one I'm usually trading, but I have been talking about gold, which been kind of watching gold here on a 4 hour. ICT stuff still applying. It was in this megaphone that it's now up against the top of. You can see yesterday the low was just the filling of this fair value gap, and then I mentioned the double top that played out really nicely yesterday on gold. And one thing I noticed, just kind of Mr. T style, the way that these stops above are all at different areas, I think could mean that makes it easy for them to just run the liquidity above, because it's like, all right, well, we stopped out this guy, so who's next? We got to stop out this guy, and then this guy's not that far out, versus like when we look to the downside, if things start to line up where they're kind of like these, equal levels there, like that kind of thing. It makes it a little bit more difficult for the liquidity pop if it's just kind of, they run it and then they push it back. So I think gold could be getting set up for a move to the upside here. We've seen buyers on NEM. We've seen dark pools on NEM. I know Freeman picked some of that up. So I think there could be, I'm going to just kind of keep an eye on gold over there. If we jump into, let's get into we can start on the Russell, turn off some of these indicators. Let's see what we're looking at here. Let's see. Looks like some of my drawings didn't come over here. Let's look. Let's see. All right, so we've got, we had the fair value gap below that we have now popped. So we're using this, this is support, it looks like, in this area. Let's see, for upside targets, first thing I'd like to see them cross would be this. I'll get rid of some of this stuff here. Let's see. Yeah, I'd want to see them pop this 4 hour green line right there. Need to pop and hold that one. That would be like an order block line, which would be looks like midpoint of this one, and then we had some resistance against that. We've got this longer term trend line above. If we were to start moving towards the downside, this would be this big candle. This is all this one fair value gap there. So be watching the reaction first to that 1955.20, and then downside target, if we really get going, would be that 1944.10. Pink line is again going to be our new week opening gap, and then it looks like here we've got this fair value gap above that would run from here to there, right there. So first upside targets would be again this green line above 1967.90. So kind of going to see what we got. Very compressed, very similar to yesterday, where it was like, we've got the stops above, we've got the stops below. So we just ran the stops below. Those guys are done off that candle right there. So we'll see what we get. Could be set up for a move higher. We jump over to the NASDAQ. Also very compressed here pre-market. So we've got this way longer term trend line above. It's kind of in this big, this would be an ascending megaphone. Gold boxes are daily fair value gaps below. So if we kind of go zoom back in here, we've got this hourly fair value gap actually would have already been filled in on this candle. But I like the fact that we're holding above it. If we start pushing to downside, this would be the first downside target, 781.50. And then this one is still open below if we were to really get going. And then again, our new week opening gap in the NASDAQ just marked up this high. So in case we start pushing, we would see if we stop this guy out and continue. kind of similar to yesterday, where we were like I was looking at some of these lines, just looking for stops to get ran, basically. So that's kind of what I'll be looking for on the NASDAQ. But I let you know, this is a good compression here, which could be a signal that we could get some movement today, as opposed to some of those overnight massive moves we saw last week, where then it's like, well, we got to just kind of sit on hands for a while at the open. Let's see. We had some individual tickers with daily inside bars, NVIDIA being one of them. We saw getting some good flow on NVIDIA lately as well.
480 flow came in like a gusto, and we talked about that bull flag on the 1 hour that basically played out and ripped. That those 480 calls basically being the catalyst. NVIDIA is going to 500 by hook or crook. It's going to fucking happen as long as the flow continues to pound. Just is. Don't know when, but it's going to happen.
Well, the flow says NVIDIA 500 by September, right? That was the Alpha Gold.
Next week also, there were 500s for this week that were filtering also. It's like there's plenty of 500s with expiration anywhere from this week all the way, out to September, like you're talking. It can happen much quicker than that.
Very good.
Let's see what they do with those 480s, if they flip bid on them or what they do. I think that's going to be the real tell on NVIDIA today, is how they treat those 480 calls that they smashed yesterday.
Okay. Yeah. Nice. So yeah, I'll be looking for NVIDIA to pop and hold 468 below. If you want to be really aggressive on a put trigger, you could be looking at that. What's that? Basically 464.95, and then more conservative, I'll be looking for this line down here, 461.70. You can see it's kind of reacted a few times, bounce. So yeah, we'll see what we get. But yeah, the daily candle was an inside bar on NVIDIA, so we could be ready for a move. And then the other one I was going to keep an eye on was Snow. Snow with the daily inside bar as well.
Snow continues to get good flow to the upside. There are some downside hedges out there, but the vast majority of flow is most certainly, leaning bull. And you can see how that sector continues to kind of play catch up with a lot of its peers, if you will. Nice.
Yeah. Software has been big the past couple of weeks. So yeah, this is a pretty clear, important line, 185.15. Reactions there. So we need to pop that, and then below this gold line is going to be, that's a dark pool there, 182.22. So below that, I'd be looking to take Snow short, and then it does have this kind of like descending megaphone look to it, which would technically be kind of like a bullish pattern. So I think if we can pop that, we've got maybe something right up here at 187.65, and the next stop would be that 190.80. And that is all I've got.
All right. So the chart that I'm looking at, the closest pre-market coming into open for the day is going to be Google. It has lagged the overall move that the market has made. It's also compressing in a nice potential flag here, depending on how you want to look at it. They also report next week. They did not get the massive gusto off of AI because their little Bard machine sucks dick. So they really didn't get the big move. However, it does look to me like it is consolidating in here. And I do plan on if everything holds firm, key thing, holding firm, I plan on buying Google calls out the next week for the ER build up and run. There was flow a couple of weeks ago pushing it post ER into that 135 to 140 range. There was flow out there for it. So Google's going to be the one that I'm watching. To me, if I'm looking at it pre-market here, you can see the makings of a potential inverse head and shoulder sitting above a dark pool that printed in this morning. We had a dark pool that came in at 124.65. So it's a little bit above here, basically closed last night, but there was a dark pool last night or this morning that printed in. That to me is going to be a chart that I'm looking at to try to take advantage of to the upside. I don't know what level to play it off of just yet. If we get a big red candle down there that plays at 124, 123.50, I will absolutely pounce for the reflex reaction. The other one that I want to point out would be the mess surrounding Disney. That chart is broken, butt fucked, butt tangled, whatever you want to call it. It is absolutely getting throttled. However, we did have a 14% dark pool fling in on it yesterday at 125.80. There was a large dark pool there. So I'm going to be watching the price action off of that. The reason why I bring up Disney is Netflix reports on Wednesday. We could see a covering rally in Disney leading into that Netflix ER on Wednesday. Could. So that could be on watch to play scalp about. And that's all I got. You guys have anything else?
I don't
No, I'm
think
good.
so. Did you say 125.80?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Like,
I'm sorry. No, I was looking at the Google chart instead of the Disney chart when I said it. 85.80
okay, that makes more sense.
is where that printed yesterday. 85.80.
Okay. I'll throw a line
And
there.
that was 13.8%. Just call it 14% average daily. Flipping in there. And really, the thing is, I'm not seeing any type of, I think there was one line or two lines that were below this 85 mark. As far as flow yesterday on the Murder Mouse. On the other side, we did see some leaps, some 104s and 105s going out the next year. I believe that those were being tossed about in there. Ultimately, Disney will rebound. The question is when. And if you had been short Murder Mouse since the 90s, odds are you're going to want to cover up a little bit before this ER for Netflix. Just a little bit. And we can see what happens when we get covering rallies that has any type of call flow coming back on the other side. So again, that's all I got. Fellas, do you have anything else?
I don't
I'm good.
think so.
That's it. All right. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you soon.